All right, you've heard the warnings from Westpac and others about our economy. Growth slowing to below 2%, unemployment climbing to 6.5%, and the housing market expected to slow. Welfare agencies are bracing themselves for some tough times ahead. Salvation Army social policy analyst Alan Johnson joins me now. Alan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Paul.
Thank you for your time. Good to see you again. Has the Salvation Army noticed any upturn in need recently?
No, we haven't. Up until, say, the middle of the year, food bank use, for example, was slightly down on the year before.
Which you would expect, because things have been rosier.
Things have been rosier, and employment was picking up quarter on quarter, and I think that was reflected in people's requests for support from us. There's been no bad news to date.
Right. You are, though, aware, and that's why we're talking about it today, that there could be a little bit. There are tough times on the horizon for some, particularly, I suppose you would say, in some of the provinces.
It looks like that's the case. Outside of Auckland, it looks like, for example, in places like Canterbury and Southland and places like the Waikato, that things aren't looking so good, and that we might find that, it's predicted off-farm spend will decline. Those smaller towns and cities will find it tougher in terms of jobs, and I think in particular probably young people leaving school at the end of the year might find it really tough to get jobs in a shrinking job market.
Yeah, which can quite often put extra pressure on families as well. How well catered are agencies such as yours to handle an increase in demand?
We've got that infrastructure already in place. We're across about 40 centres across New Zealand, and clearly we're coming off a time just after the GFC where people coming in our doors were at record highs, and so we still have that capacity there to cater for something that might happen in terms of rising unemployment and increasing social need.
What do you say to families who are struggling but they're making it through at the moment? And we know there are a lot of families in that situation who are maybe going to be faced with a falling income, and they're only just making it through at the moment. What sort of things can they do now to prepare for the worst?
One of the things we find is that people sometimes just sink into hopeless debt. And sometimes when they come to see us, it's almost beyond them. And one of the things you'd probably ask people to think about is just think about what debt you incur over the next, say, 6 to 12 months. Do you really need that TV? Do you really need to take on additional debt? Because don't be certain that the hours that you're going to be working at work are going to be there in 6 months' time, or that all that income that you're relying on will be available.
People are often critical of people that are not in poverty talking about this and saying, well, these people can't plan for the future. It's just a day-by-day survival for them. But there still are things they can do, such as not taking on more debt. Are you sometimes surprised when people who are right at the bottom of the financial ladder do take on debt for things that you might potentially class as unnecessary?
Yeah, it's often surprising what people end up sort of committing themselves to. I think sometimes, though, that the people selling the debt are a bit like drug dealers sort of preying on the vulnerable.
You're absolutely right there,
and I think there needs to be controls on those sorts of behaviours so they don't get people into sort of hopeless situations which are really, really tough for them to get out of.
All right. In terms of people considering relocating, because this is going to be an issue perhaps for the medium term, not just the short term in some of the regions, is there any help for people who think, things are just getting worse for us here? There's no likelihood that we're going to get a job here in the medium term, but how do we move? We can't afford to move.
I guess that's the sort of conundrum a lot of people face, that there are jobs in Auckland, there are opportunities in Auckland, but finding a place to stay, unless you've got relatives who are kind and going to put you up for a while, is really tough. And so what we're probably going to see is that people don't shift. They don't shift to Australia because things are no better there. They don't shift to Auckland because it's tough to find a place to live. So they might stay where they are. And that might not work well for the economy in terms of people shifting around for the jobs that are here.
How do people get advice, just finally, Alan? Because obviously many people, as you've already said, turn to you as an absolute last resort, and they've already dug themselves into enormous holes by the time they do it. If people know things are going in the wrong direction and can't see a way out, where do they turn for advice?
No, I mean, they could come to us early, or they could come to other budgeting agencies.
So you can talk to them, you can help them budget, because that's the most vital thing, isn't it?
It is the most vital thing,
to pick it up as soon as possible.
To contemplate what's going to happen in advance of that. But I think a lot of people, and I think one of the people that was on previously talking about their financial planning was suggesting, well, one day I sat down to do it. The reality is that many of us, whether we're at risk of losing our job or we've got lots of money, don't plan for the future very well. And so I think part of what we're struggling with is an overall attitude, not just a sort of an indifference to what might be around the corner for some people.
It's a very easy thing to put off, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Alan, thank you very much for joining us. All the best. Alan Johnston, Salvation Army social policy analyst.